All right, let's jump right in. We all know the Declaration of Independence, right? It says our right to life is unalienable. So, why does it have a price tag? We're about to unpack a really powerful argument that makes you question the very foundation of how our economy works.
This right here, this is the question that kicks everything off. I mean, think about it. Unalienable is supposed to mean it can't be sold or taken away from you, but every single one of us pays a cost of living. The source material we're looking at says, hey, that's a massive contradiction. How can a right you are literally born with come with a monthly bill?
This really gets to the heart of it. When things you absolutely need to live, food, water, a roof over your head, have prices that go up and down, your right to life suddenly depends on whether you can afford it that month. It basically turns survival into a subscription service. And if you can't make the payment, it feels like your unalienable rights are being put up for auction.
Okay, so how does this whole system of paying to survive actually work? To make this big abstract idea feel a little more personal, the source uses this really powerful analogy called the foster child paradox. The source asks us to imagine a child in the foster care system. Now, just by being in a home, that child's presence generates thousands of dollars in funding from the state for that household. But here's the twist. The child, the person who is the actual source of all that value, often sees none of it invested in their own future. And this quote just hits you right in the gut. It says it all. A real investment is supposed to grow with the person who created it. If that money was actually for the child, it would have been put into a trust fund for them. But it wasn't. The child wasn't the investment. The household was.
And here's how that transfer of value works broken down. Step 1, the child generates the economic value. Step 2, the state transfers that value. And step 3, the foster household captures it. The source uses this really personal story as a model for a much, much bigger economic argument, that our whole system is kind of designed to extract value from one group to benefit another, while the creators of that value often get left behind.
So this idea of value being captured by some unaccountable authority is totally central to the source's most provocative claim. It's called the Great Reversal. And believe me, it takes our everyday definitions of capitalism and socialism and just flips them completely upside down. Okay, this is fascinating. Look at this parallel. On the left, you've got the classic complaints about socialism, right? Centralized state power, no democratic say, unaccountable leaders. But then, look at the right. The source argues that modern capitalism, especially when it controls life's necessities, ends up looking exactly the same. Power is concentrated in corporate boards that you don't elect, you can't vote for your CEO. These giant corporations basically function like their own private command economies. And that brings us to this term the source comes up with, corporate socialism. The idea is that when you give private corporations total control over life or death essentials, you've basically created a system of centralized, unaccountable power, which is the very thing socialism is always accused of being. It's a total reversal of how we usually talk about this stuff.
So, if the argument is that our current system is a kind of corporate socialism, then what's the alternative? Well, the source doesn't just critique, it actually proposes a solution. It's called the egalitarian solution, and it's designed to get our economy back in line with our founding principles. And that system is called egalitarianism. Now, according to this analysis, this is not about the state controlling everything. Not at all. It's about popular sovereignty. We, the people, having democratic control over the absolute basics for survival. The idea is if you build that stable foundation, a truly free market for everything else can finally flourish on top of it. I really love this analogy because it makes the whole concept so clear. Just picture society as a building. What egalitarianism says is that we, the public, are responsible for making sure the foundation is rock solid and stable for everyone. But everything built on top of that foundation, that's where private enterprise, innovation, and competition are totally free to build whatever they want, from small shops to giant skyscrapers. So here's what that actually looks like. The foundation is made up of the absolute necessities for survival, the things you can't exercise any other right without. Then there's the market, which is everything above that foundation. That's where all the wants, the luxuries, the cool innovations live. The whole point is to draw a clear line between what is essential for life and what just enhances life.
And this brings us to the final, and maybe the most important part of the whole argument. The ultimate goal here is to recenter our society around a new, totally fundamental way of measuring success.
This slide really shows how it would work in practice. The foundation, the stuff you need for pure survival, is secured for everyone. Then, things you need for modern citizenship, like education and internet access, are guaranteed at cost. What this does is it creates a stable, humane floor. This allows the free market to innovate on top of it, instead of profiting from people's desperation at the very bottom.
And this brings us right back to where we started. The core moral argument of this whole analysis is that if a right is truly inalienable, if it's your birthright, then you shouldn't have to buy it. It can't be something you have to swipe a credit card for day in and day out just to keep it.
So what's the real measure of a just society, a legitimate government, or a moral economy? The source proposes a really simple but incredibly powerful answer. Life is the measure. And that's a provocative thought to end on. The idea that the ultimate test for any system we create is its ability to protect the one right that all of our other rights depend on.